Yeah, welcome to section number 5. I want to show you the copy of another book that I've written, okay? This is called A Dilemma in Canada's Centennial 1967, and I have to confess that the 60s were my best years, okay? I'm kind of like one of those guys that was stuck in a certain period of time in life history or whatever. I'm stuck in the 60s. 60s, I was a growing up teenager attending school in Brandon in my early 60s or the early 60s, and then in the mid 60s I went to Brandon University, got my science degree there with a major in physics and philosophy and a minor in math, and ended up going to Expo 67 in Montreal. So this book is basically written. It took me the whole year. I planned it that way, the whole year to write this book. It's thematic. It's 100 verses long on different aspects of what I thought about my country back in 1967. And it was a country where I could go the streets of Brandon night and day without fear or worry of anything really happening. Streets of Winnipeg day and night with groups of boys that I was with that won trips into Winnipeg by delivering newspapers, and then all of a sudden to Expo 67 in Montreal, and no fear at all. You had to be careful, of course, doing certain things, but no fear like what we have today of being attacked or people knifing you or whatever the case may be. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the 60s and memories about the 60s, because they were very, very prosperous years. And I just want to pick up another book here and show it to you. And this book here is called The Keyhole, and it's about my wife's knee operation, which, okay, she's had both knees done, both knees operated on, and like I've said to you before, okay, like my dad trained me how to handle guns, and I became a hunter and things like that. And so when she was going to go through this knee operation, I was very, very petrified, because I knew how I handled deer when I was butchering deer, and I thought, I'm not going to allow my wife to be operated on and torn apart like what I do with deer. But finally what I did, it's called The Keyhole, because you've got to go somewhere and look up the evidence and find out what's actually taking place. So what I did is I went one time, okay, and I write about this description in the book, went online, looked at a knee operation on YouTube, and found out, oh hey, this is very, very high tech, very, very technical, and she's going to be okay. So this was done as well, and kind of a neat cover on that book. So the question comes up, why YouTube? I've got a website, and why do these YouTube clips? And I think for myself, it's like a legacy type of thing. These little clips are going to be up on YouTube for a long time, and they're going to be kind of like that, kind of like a legacy. And so I want to do that and kind of preserve some of the things that I've done, so that you can see me actually in living color or whatever. And yeah. So one of the things that caught me along the way, both our parents, mom and dad, on both my side and my wife's side, have passed away already. And one of the things that I remember hearing from my wife's dad just before he passed away was the concept, remember me. And all of a sudden I'm in shock, hearing this and things like that, and thinking, well, of course, we're going to remember you and whatnot. But as successive generations pass away, people have a tendency to forget somebody, or they didn't even know them, or whatever the case may be. So part of this is to establish that legacy type of things, and I make reference to the fact that I think about having footprints on the earth, footprints in the sand, footprints in the snow, or whatever the case may be. I was there, I lived there, I lived through this span of time or whatever, and it's almost like the poem, about footprints, left, the poem pertaining to Jesus carrying somebody over a certain stretch of roadway or time or whatever the case may be. So that made an impression on me as well. And when I think about the concept of remember me and kind of establishing a legacy. You know, you can visit cemeteries or graveyards or whatever and look for relatives that you've maybe known and passed, but you come across ones that, hey, are buried there, and people say, well, this was your great-grandfather or whatever the case may be, but you only know the name. You don't know or experienced anything by remembering them personally or whatever the case may be. And so one of the things that I thought about after was that, okay, the Lord at the Last Supper, he said exactly the same thing. He said, remember me. And all of a sudden, you know, kind of like the light came on and whatnot, and I realized that as he was having communion with them, I think he said something like this, this is my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And so just fantastic things that are written here and that I kind of have aligned my life with over the years. Never living it totally perfect. None of us do. We do things that we regret and whatnot. But hopefully as we proceed along the way, we can kind of straighten things out and make things better and do a good job of helping other people out as well on the way. So that is the end of section number